I'm just going to jump straight into it. So today I'm going to be talking about friendships. Point number one is that you're never actually alone. So let's take it back to when I was 9 years old. It was my first day of grade 4 and I was walking into school and I was like, it's going to be a good year, you know? I was like, I'm going to have so many friends. I can't wait to see all my friends after summer holidays. It's going to be the best year yet. And then I was walking to my class, and as soon as I sat down in my classroom, I was like, hold up, none of my friends are in my class. And I was like, what is going on, God? Where are they? Come on. And then after this, it kind of dampened my spirits, obviously. And little 9-year-old Brittany was like, I'm never going to have friends again. I was like, they're going to have forgotten about me. And I was like, look at them in their grade 3, 4 class while I'm over in 4, 5. They're all doing their spelling list together. And I'm here doing mine alone, not having fun. But, anyway, after a while, I went and saw the school chaplain about it. And I was like, they've forgotten about me. And she was like, no, Brittany, it's fine. And I was like, tell me why? And she was like, just because you can't have friends, like always be next to your friends, doesn't mean you don't have friends. And I was like, yeah, okay, fair point. And then she was like, but you know what else? Even when you're feeling lonely, you're never actually alone. And she went on to read to me that in Proverbs 18:24, the Passion Translation, it says, some friendships don't last for long, but there is one loving friend who is joined to your heart closer than any other. And I was like, oh, wow, whew, I didn't know that. And then, when we focus on this fact that we have one friend who is closer than any other, our worries and anxieties of not making friends or having friends are alleviated because we've always got Jesus with us. We can have peace in knowing that we're never actually alone. And this isn't something that's just applied to a 9-year-old schoolgirl once in her life, but this is something that we can carry with us in every season. As many as you know, last year I went on exchange to Spain for a year, and one of the big challenges with exchange is making friends, particularly with a big language barrier. And there was many times when I would come home from school or wherever I was and be deflated and start wondering how on earth am I going to make friends in this foreign country. But then I would be reminded of this verse and that I always had Jesus closer to me than anybody else attached to my heart. And, once my worries started to lift about this, I also began to realise that if I put in effort, I would eventually make friends, which is my second point. You will make friends if you put in effort. So let's take it back to grade 4. A bit of time had passed after I talked to the chaplain, and I started remembering that I had Jesus with me and stuff. And I had this little Proverbs 18:24 on a rainbow piece of paper, a mobile, so I'd read it every day and night. And at this stage, I was like, you know what, God? Thanks for the Holy Spirit and Jesus Christ and for sending them to be with me all the time, being my besties and stuff. But, having a live human here on earth would be a nice little bonus. But, I was like, I don't want to pressure you too much, God, but And then, anyway, so I just kept on praying about this. And then I showed up at school one day and I rocked up to my class and there was this new girl. And I was like, oh, a new girl. And I went and talked to her and she was like, yeah, I just moved here from Melbourne and I have no friends because I know nobody. And I was like, I have no friends either. Me too. Anyway, and then after some time, while she was settling into life here, I decided to invite her to everything that I went to. I followed her everywhere. I told her jokes that weren't funny. I talked her head off. And eventually she gave in and became my best friend. And, we're still best friends to this very day. In Proverbs 18:24, the New King James Version, the first part says, a man who has friends must himself be friendly. You're not going to make friends if you're not friendly. And that's the effort. Being friendly takes effort. If you're feeling like you want more friends or you want better friendships, you can resolve this by putting in effort. Friendships take time and effort to build and maintain. But if you get there, you'll get a good one. The proverb doesn't say, just you can be lazy because God's got your back. He's going to send you a good one. It says he himself must be friendly. There are friendships out there if you're willing to pursue them. And they're going to be good ones if you build them on effort and God. So, as a little summary, I just want you to remember that if you're struggling with friendships, you just need to remember that you're not alone because you got Jesus, and the end result of friendliness is friendships.
Awesome. Hey, give it up for Brittany again. How good was that? Fantastic. Who knows that in reality, it's not just in high school that sometimes you can struggle with friends? Yeah? In fact, after you leave high school, it's often harder because you're not around the same people like 5 days a week all the time, right? So don't switch off because we're talking about friends. This is awesome stuff, yeah? And remember, the biggest thing I got out of what you just said then, Brittany, was that if you want a friend, you actually have to be friendly. Yeah? How often does that sort of just miss our whole thoughts? Yeah? So good. All right. So let me invite up our next speaker, the incredible Lydia West.
Good morning, church. Am I on? Oh, I'm on. Awesome. Good morning. Well, how good was that message from Brittany? I love just how authentic you are, Britt, wherever you are. I can't find you now. That's awesome. Just your honesty and your testimony was really powerful. So good. I just want to carry on, I guess, from what Brittany shared about and the, I guess, importance of having healthy friendships. And so for me, I've found that this is a healthy balance of give and take. So that's kind of what I want to talk about this morning. And so it means allowing yourself to be vulnerable and share openly, but also making time to be a good listener when a friend of yours wants to share. So it's about having that willingness to give and the willingness to take on. So I think that the greatest friendships are built on honest and open conversation and having that ability to be vulnerable and share what's really going on behind the scenes. And a little side note, this doesn't mean making a Facebook post about it. So don't get me wrong, social media is a great way to stay in touch in between, catching up with people. And I know life gets busy, so it's a great tool, but I don't think it should be treated as a replacement. So if a friendship has its roots in the digital world, it'll have no fruit in the real world because a friendship has to be planted in personal contact. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about this morning and just about how you can build that time of personal contact with your friendships. Because not only does this add elements like body language and tone of voice, but it's also a much safer space to share. Unfortunately, once something's online, it's impossible to tell just how far it's gone and who can hear it. But actually just catching up with someone in person and seeing how they're going is just a much safer environment for people to be vulnerable. And it's so important to allow yourself to be vulnerable because I know in our Australian culture, we don't like to ask for help. I know I struggle with that. But we're not designed to do life alone. We're designed for community. And so the way that we can have those healthy friendships is to be in community with one another. A verse I want to share with you is James 5 verse 16. So if you want to turn with me there or click with me there, whichever you prefer. And it says, confess your sins to each other, pray for each other so that you may be healed. The earnest prayer of a righteous person has great power and produces wonderful results. So I love that this isn't saying that we should use a megaphone or a smartphone to tell the whole world what's going on. It's actually about confiding in a close, trusted friend. And so it's just that one-on-one conversation. And so it's not just so that we can get it off our chest and feel better about it. It's actually so we can pray together and have help when we need it. And so it's so that people can come alongside us and kind of help us overcome what we're going through. Because life is better together, right? Awesome. So I just want to say I cannot express in words just how grateful I am for this church because no school and no workplace that I've been in has created such a safe environment to share. So it's one of the safest places that I've experienced in my life. So I definitely don't want to take that for granted. And not just the negative things, but the positive things as well. I love that we're good news people. I love that there are people who want to hear when things are going right, not just when things are going wrong. Something else that I loved in this passage of James is a little earlier on in verse 13. It says, are any of you suffering hardships? You should pray. Are any of you happy? You should sing praises. I love how straightforward that is. Don't you love it when the Bible's just straight away, like in your face, just this is what you should do. There's no beating around the bush. It's great. So it doesn't say, are you suffering hardships? You should put it on Facebook. And it doesn't say, if you're suffering hardships, you should complain until it passes. It actually says you should pray together and you should come together and work through it in community. And so a great sign of healthy friendship is one where you can pray together in hardship and celebrate together in happiness. So I want to encourage you to take that step in being willing to be vulnerable and to be honest with the people that you trust. But again, it's all about give and take, which leads me to the second part of the equation. And I don't know if take is the right word here, because I know that sounds like you're trying to steal something from them, but you're not. It's about just being willing and available to be there when someone wants to share, and actually having that sort of willingness to take on what they want to say and create a safe environment for people to share with you. A few weeks ago, Rhonda talked about how we can love through listening, which was really awesome. And I think that something that's really easy to do is kind of get into the mentality of that, you know, if they want to chat, they'll come to me, sort of thing. And so I think what we could do to have healthier friendships is just kind of change that mentality into actually asking people how they're going and just checking in with people, even if they look like they're fine on the outside, just kind of taking someone out for coffee or seeing if there's anything you can be praying for them for or doing for them. So healthy friendships are not passive, they're proactive. So it's actually about constantly looking for things you can do to help, looking for ways that they can open up and share or, you know, have a chat when they want to. Philippians 2 verse 4 says, don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. So instead of just assuming that they'll come to you if something's wrong, make a point of asking a friend how they're really travelling. It might be as simple as offering to take them out for coffee. I mean, I love having coffee with people. I'm a bit of a coffeeholic, if that's a word. And not just because it tastes great, because depending on where you go in Devonport, it's not always going to taste great, but it's about the company, isn't it? The actual action of asking someone out for coffee really does mean a lot. And even, you know, it doesn't matter what you end up talking about. Every conversation you have is an investment into your friendship. And so even if you only ended up talking about, you know, how their week's been and just all the ups and downs, you don't have to go into deep, meaningful conversation. But yeah, everything that you do it in love and in grace. Don't take someone out for coffee just to try and grill them with their deepest, darkest secrets. But yeah, just kind of catch up with people, see how they're going, because it's a really, really powerful thing that you can do. So this kind of reminds me of a while ago. A friend of mine sort of realised we hadn't caught up in a while, so we went out for coffee. And not that we were planning on having any sort of deep, meaningful conversation. We were sort of just, you know, chilling out in a good cafe. But something sort of naturally came up in conversation about my dad and just sort of my, like, growing up. And we sort of realised that we had common ground that we didn't know we had. And so it turns out we've had really similar experiences. And so it meant that suddenly we were able to share stuff that we didn't really know we were able to share. And so it meant that we took that time to actually make a space where we were, you know, able to share what we were going through. And it sort of created this snowball effect. And I think that the snowball effect is one of my favourite parts of conversation. So the little bit more you share, the little bit more they share. And it kind of can just build up and it doesn't just dive straight into it and gets terrifying. It kind of just sort of gradually, it's just that give and take. And so that's something that I've learnt to embrace is the snowball. And just kind of, the more that people share with you, just kind of thank them for that as well, because sometimes it can be really hard to open up. So it's really good to be consciously aware of when people are opening up to you. And just thank them for opening up. And a great way of doing that is to do it yourself, and it kind of creates that snowball. Is that kind of making sense? Am I just preaching to myself here? But the other thing with that is, since that conversation a while ago, anytime something comes up to do with that, I can kind of feel like I can chat about it. I don't have to get through that barrier of all the other stuff first. Like, it means that, and that line of communication's already open. So it makes it really easy to kind of go on from there as well. So before I finish this morning, I want to get really practical for a minute, because I like practical. And there's two things that I want to leave you with. And firstly, I want you to have a think about this concept of give and take, and just ask yourself which one you feel you need to work on the most. So I know for me, mine is the give side of things, because until you get to know me, I'm a pretty closed book. And so I know I really need to work on being vulnerable and being open with people that I trust. So maybe you feel like it's the give side of things. Maybe you feel like you need to be more aware of people who need someone to talk to. And maybe making yourself available to be the listener that they need is something that you can work on. The other thing that I want to do as well is for you to just maybe get out your notepad or your phone and have a think about a friend of yours that maybe you haven't caught up with in a while. And just, it might be just the first name that pops into your head, but maybe you've got someone who's just kind of gone off the radar, or you've sort of not caught up with them in a while, maybe chatted to them in passing. But yeah, I just want you to have a think about who you could be sending, flicking them a message this week or giving them a call and just see how they're going. And not to have any sort of deep conversation, but just kind of check in with people. And so I encourage you to embrace this concept of give and take and do it with grace as well. And what I mean by doing it with grace is that if there's anything that they do want to share, they feel like they can, but they don't feel pressured to. So maybe just ask if there's anything you can be doing to help out. Maybe they have had a hard week and might just want to not have to cook and clean tonight, and you can do a meal for them. So it's just little things like that you can do. And again, taking people out for coffee is, I found, one of my signature things. I love it. So if however you decide that you want to connect within your friendships, make sure you allow yourself to be vulnerable, and make sure that you're allowing them to have a safe space that they can too. So yeah, I'm just going to leave you with that.
Fantastic. So good, Lydia. That was awesome. I love listening to you talk, Lydia, and the way you share is just so open and honest. It's always practical, isn't it? And you always just drop these awesome little nuggets of gold that's just stand out, and they're awesome, legit. What stood out for me the most just then was if your friendships in in the digital world, they won't have any fruit in the real world. How crazy is that? It's so good, and it just works. Oh, goodness gracious! You could get paid to make professional tweets, Lydia. That's awesome. I love it. So good. All right. The next person that I get to introduce to you is one of the excellent interns here at our church, Jacob Kenzie. Please give it up.
Hello, everybody. I've got a mic. This is crazy. How amazing were Lydia and Brittany? I love how God is always with us, and that in friendships we have to give and take to have a good friendship. Isn't that true? Awesome. So to start me off, everyone say relationships are important. Awesome. Bring my Brian back, Just because he's away doesn't mean you can't do that. Yeah, turn to your neighbor and say relationships are important. So, yeah, relationships are so important, and they can have a positive and negative effect all throughout your life. And they shape you who you become, and they can tear you down and build you up. So relationships are the most important things really in our lives. So the first point I want to make, I'm going to bring a story to you. All throughout school, I know a lot of my friends have changed through the influences that have been around them, and the people that have talked into their lives, and the people on social media, and all the people that have had a say in their life. But I have one friend in particular I remember very clearly when I grew up. And we used to hang out school. We grew up in church. We went to Bible studies. We went to youth groups all together. And he had a real heart for God, and he was on fire for God. And I saw in him that he wanted to do something. He wanted to do good, and he wanted to help people. And he always believed and dedicated his time to God and to the Word. And it was so awesome to see. And at the age of 13, we even got baptized together. We were real close. And to be honest, he was the inspiration for me to make that decision to be baptized and commit myself to God, because I saw his boldness and I saw his faithfulness towards God, and it softened my heart, And I looked at how he followed God, and I wanted to do the same and serve God. And as he served God, I saw that he flourished. He flourished abundantly in what God had brought into his life. So I wanted that too. So I committed my life to God because of the power that his relationship had in my life and the importance of his relationship. But even though it was so good and it was awesome, as we grew up and went into high school and college, he began to hang out with the wrong crowd. And he went away from church, he went away from me, and we drifted off further than we ever did. And the people he was trying to influence eventually overcome him and overwhelmed him, and he became them. And he started to become like them. He started partying on weekends, and he started getting into fights, and his mouth was filled with destructive words, and he's chasing girls and momentary satisfaction all the time. And these people really trampled all over his fire for God until it was nothing. He lost all connection with positive influence. And it was really hard to see this happen to him, and it broke my heart, really, to see this happen to my best friend. Because after all, I looked up to him for so long, and he was so important in my life. But in the Bible, it says in 1 Corinthians 15:33 that do not be deceived, for good company corrupts good character. And that is so true. If you be around the wrong people all the time, you'll become like them, and they will corrupt your character. They'll corrupt what started in you, that God has planted in you. You got to choose wisely. All these people, they chase freedom by doing what they... Hold on, I lost my trace. All these young people chase freedom by doing what they want, but they don't truly have freedom until they meet Jesus. It's the freedom that breaks chains and breaks addiction, and it's freedom that restores families and delivers from destruction. Because the freedom they have is just in a spiral of destruction because they have no freedom, but they have all this addiction. And it happens a lot. And also tells us in Proverbs 9 verse 6, to leave your sinful ways behind you, begin to live and learn to use good judgment. We can have good judgment in God. Awesome. So to go on from that, we can judge the people we hang out with by the fruits that they produce, and we can judge the worth in their life and the amount of influence that they want, that we will allow to have in our lives. With the wisdom from God, we'll be able to escape the snare of evil, and it's the wisdom that comes by asking and receiving and reading His Word. So I really encourage you to read your Word. It's good for you. Real good. Awesome. So negativity brought my friend down, but with God, we can bring ourselves up and we can choose the right people to be around. Don't know if it's really for the older people as much, but definitely for younger people. But it can be for everyone. Awesome. So this brings me to my next point in Ecclesiastes. Yeah, that's good. That's a hard word. Ecclesiastes 4 verse 9, it says that two are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. They can build each other up, and they can help each other out the storms. So we need relationships to help us, spur us on, and pick us up when we fall down. They encourage us and build us up and help us through the storms. Trying to do life on your own will leave you helpless. Turn to your neighbour and say, I value you. I love it. That never gets old. Guys are awesome too. Awesome. So, and better yet, they can help us up. But the Bible says also in Proverbs 13:20 that he who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. So we need relationships, but we also need wise people in our lives. The people that can build us up and help us protect our hearts from evil, and help us with wisdom to choose who we hang out with more, because they're very important. So also plant yourself around confidence and joy and love, and with confidence, joy and love, you'll be able to reap confidence, joy and love. And you become who you hang out with. Yeah, that's true. Even hanging out with the Weber family, they bring your sanguine out. They're so loud. You hang out with them lots, you'll be loud, eh? So, definitely in the last 8 months, I've seen a shift in myself when I look back, and I look about the people I've actually been planning myself around when I make the choice to, set myself around good people and wise people and encouraging people and people that will love on you. But it definitely started at Presence Conference this year in Sydney, about 8 months ago. And after that week, my life was just overflowing with joy from the people that have sowed into my life. And I was so spirit-filled, and it was just an amazing experience. And so many hearts for God, and I definitely encourage you to try and go to one of those sort of events because it's such a moving environment. And while I learnt and listened to so many Christ-like men speak into my lives, I had their river of life flowing through me. And since then, my confidence and peace and acceptance in myself has been better than ever.
Come on.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, you can clap for me. That's great. I love that. If you guys don't know what a hype man is, you guys are all my hype men. So you guys are like there to encourage me. Come on. Awesome. So when I started to make the choice to be around good company, it constantly changed my life. Not that you shouldn't still be around the unchurched, because how else can you show them Jesus, right? We've got to show them Jesus, but first off, we've got to plant ourselves in the right environment, the right community, and from then, we'll flourish. So I started stepping out in church events, serving on teams, and starting this internship, and doing all this, I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for the people and relationships I had formed, and the people that encouraged me and pushed me along and, believed in me. And through those relationships, God has really made himself known into my life and who I'm meant to be and who I'm becoming to be. And I know he definitely has purpose for me. And I can speak in anyone's life. And it says in the Bible also to not look down on young people because of their age, because they can all have something to say. That's so awesome. So, as I bring my preach to an end, we can all choose positivity and negativity every day, but that means being bold and standing up in faith, knowing what God has for you is better than what you have for yourself and what you think is for yourself. So I hope that we just all make wise choices, because relationships are made to build up and to love and to cherish each other on, and not to tear down and to build up. So that's pretty much it for me. Thank you very much, everyone.
So good. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jacob. How good was that? Who thinks we'll see Jacob again? Preaching soon? Yes? That was fantastic. Jacob, as you were talking and you were sharing about your friend and the inspiration that he was to you and your faith, I had this thought that you are going to be an inspiration to people in their lives. There are going to be young men come through this church who look at you and go, I want to be closer to God because I see what Jacob's got on his life and I want that. So don't count yourself out, man. You have got awesome, incredible things ahead of you.